What's going on, everybody? Long gone are the days where I'm ignoring defensive guides because I suck at playing defense. And, well, I still suck at playing defense, but here at least are a couple of tips. Something very important to point out before I even start going through the guide is that playing defense is way harder than playing offense. Now, this may seem obvious to most players, but the offense has a ton of advantages over the defense. So it's important to keep in mind so you're not beating yourself up. Sometimes there's going to be goals that you cannot stop. I would also like to start with tip number 0, which is what I think is the bare minimum to start playing defense, and that is picking a team that has good defensive characters. A good defensive character, at least to me, is anybody who has at least 15 speed with enough strength to be able to take down the majority of characters you're going to face. I would say the absolute minimum for strength for a defensive character is 10, and 10 is very strategic because it takes out an 18 strength Bowser, which is the most common speed build. I would definitely recommend you have at least 2 characters that can fill this role, preferably ones that are going to sit in the 3rd and 4th slot so that they are constantly in the backfield and ready to play defense in the case of a turnover. Once you've got your team picked out, here are 5 tips to improve your defensive play. The first tip in playing defense is to identify the threat. This is what is going to happen as soon as you load into the game and you see the other team. In this example, I am playing as the purple team, but this is basically a mirror match. But what's good about this is I can look at the green team and say, wow, they also only have one major shooter on the team, and that's Rosalina. So as long as I'm playing defense, I need to make sure that the Rosalina is not capable of getting the ball and scoring. And I know the strategy is going to work because that's what works against my team. In this example, follow the pink 5 because I'm going to follow the Rosalina even though she does not have the ball. This is going to make sure my Peach is as close as possible so that when they do pass it, I will be able to switch and get a tackle. Even then, it was still a little bit late, but I was still able to get the tackle off, so I'll take it. In a similar play, I noticed that the Rosalina has the ball, so I want to target the Bowser, which is farther ahead, because that's really the only viable pass target. Unfortunately, this is a 2v1, so the Bowser is able to knock me out and then continue moving the ball forward, but luckily Rosalina was so far back that the threat was pretty much neutralized. The second tip is to smother the ball carrier, and by that I mean get up close and personal without actually committing to a tackle. This is going to do 2 things for you. 1, it'll make it easier to read if they dodge, and second, if they decide to pass, the ball may get body blocked so it'll be easier to intercept. Maintaining pressure against the ball carrier is very important when you're trying to manage a turnover because it is going to make it a lot less likely that your opponent has options in order to move the ball forward. This is also why I said it's important to have characters that are fast because this is not going to work if you're running with a 2-speed Wario. Here the Rosalina decides to keep the ball, but instead of committing to a tackle right away, I get really close and that blocks the pass and forces an item out of them. They still end up in a really bad position because the pass was so slow, and I'm able to swoop in with the Waluigi from the back and then get a cross pass for the score. Tip number 3 is to understand how the character switching works and also not to do it too often. In general, when your opponent has the ball, you should have a plan and stick to it. You can change characters if your opponent is passing around a lot, but if you switch too much, you are going to lose track of where you are and the character switching is going to get you messed up. It's also worth explaining how the character switching actually works, so I jumped into a private game just to show what exactly is going on. So here's everything that I know about character switching. Pretty much none of this is going to matter in a game scenario because it's always going to choose the wrong character and there's nothing you can do about it. Anyway, when you click the L button, it is always going to go to whichever character is closest to the ball. So if I'm running around as Peach right now, it will go back to the Waluigi because Waluigi is closest to the ball. If I already am closest to the ball, it will go to whoever's second closest to the ball. In this case, it's Luigi, but now it will be Peach because Peach is now closer. If I press the L button twice, it will go to the 3rd closest person to the ball, which is now Luigi again. And if I press the L button 3 times, it will go to the 4th farthest person, LLL, and now I'm playing as Wario. If you wait a very short delay before switching characters in a rotation, then it would just go back to going to whoever is closest to the ball. So if I do it very slowly, L, L, now I'm back to Waluigi. L, L, I'm back to Waluigi. But if I click LLL, now I'm on Wario again. Another trick you can do to get to the character that's further away, let's say that Peach is a huge threat and I want to defend her over there on the other side of the field, I can hold the L button, and then after a short delay, it will bring me to the character that is furthest away from the ball. which usually is pretty hard to get to. So if you didn't know that, that might help you out a little bit. Tip number 4 is do not be afraid to give your opponents items. Sometimes there are plays where you can take out their biggest threat and give them an item, which is much more preferable than leaving them open and giving them a goal. This is also very helpful when your opponent is trying to clear the ball, because if you take out their pass targets, they will only be left with the person carrying the ball, which leaves them vulnerable to tackles from a speedy character. However, even though it is important you take out characters when they need to be taken out, you don't want to be giving your opponents too many items, because each item you give them can possibly turn into a goal in the future. I kind of view giving your opponents items like fouling your opponent in basketball. Yeah, you might give them a foul and they might score on the free throw, but they're basically guaranteed to score if you didn't foul them, so it's important that you do it now. And finally, tip number 5 is that the backfield is the most important part of your defense. To start with the obvious, if you cause a turnover in the backfield, then you're already in position to score because the goal is right there. But more importantly, your opponent has significantly more options when they're in position to score than when they're on their own side of the field. Basically, if you can hold them on your side of the field, then it's much less likely that they're able to advance the ball forward into a position where they can score. But if they're able to cross the midfield line, then they can basically pass it to any of their characters, and it's really hard to defend against. With that being said, here's a couple of sub-tips to playing defense in the backfield. Tip number 1 is to not overcommit. If you overcommit your character, then now it is a 3-on-4 and you're giving them a power play. You should only tackle if you are confident that the tackle will hit. Next, if they do pass the ball, you should still knock them over, because there is a short cooldown where they will not get an item even though they no longer have the ball. If the opponent is down one of their teammates, it is going to be a lot harder to progress the ball forward. And last, you shouldn't be chasing with one character. Yes, Speed Bowser is really good, but he can't cover every opponent in the entire backfield. Also, if you're using one character, you might mess up your team's positioning and give your opponent a free lane to your goal. So there are 5 tips to playing defense better in Mario Strikers Battle League. This is by far not a comprehensive list of everything you need to know about defense. Case in point, I didn't even get to interceptions. However, I will be having more videos like this in the future, so be sure to subscribe for more. As always, thank you for watching and have a nice day.